Hey, good morning and welcome. How are you guys doing today? Woohoo! It's good to see you. We have quite a nice crowd here. It's good to see everybody. How many degree programs do we have represented? Let's go through a few of them. Do we have any entertainment business students? Okay. How about music business? Film? Ooh. Whoa, look at representing film today. How about media communications? Awesome. How about sports marketing and media? Awesome. All right, who did I forget? Who else is here? Where are you from? What is it? Creative writing. Okay, cool. Any other programs represented here today? Oh, recording arts. Okay, cool. Well, I'm so glad that you guys came here today. My name is Heather Torres. I'm the Director of Graduate Programs here at Full Sail. And I have the great honor of introducing one of my favorite grads. This is Phil Pallen. Phil Pallen is not only a branding expert, so you're going to be learning from the best, but he's also an entertainment business master's graduate, and he is a Hall of Famer. So he is a total rock star, and you guys are gonna love learning from him. He will give you a wonderful and interesting presentation. I'm so grateful to call him a friend. So please welcome to the stage Phil Pallen.
Good morning, friends. How you doing? I'm embarrassed to admit this. I have not been back on stage back on campus since Hall of Fame, and I can't tell you how good it feels to be standing here with all of you and to get to spend the morning with you talking about your brands. This is my favorite topic, and it's awesome that we have people from all different degree programs. I know we've got people that are not even connected to the Full Sail world. They will be now, but watching online. Thank you for spending your valuable minutes with me this morning, and I promise to make it worth your while. So I'm going to just share a quick little intro of me. I'm a brand strategist. I know I've got lots of friends in the audience, but some of you who don't know me or maybe started since I was back here during Hall of Fame, which was very special. I'm a brand strategist. That means I help people in three ways. People and companies position their brands, build something to show for it, and promote themselves online. And the way that I'm going to approach this today is really no different than how I would approach working with a client. I think of you no different than any of my fancy clients all over the world in over 30 countries, over 300 clients it's been since I graduated over a decade ago. Let's not dwell on that. Gray hairs. And so today is also special because we get to, for the first time really ever on campus, I get to not only share with you some ideas on branding, building your own brands, which, as I said, I'm going to approach this how I would with a client. I'm going to treat you as one of my clients. I'm going to give you the steps, the very tangible steps to build a beautiful brand from scratch. But what's totally unique about today that I've never been able to do on campus before, which makes today super exciting, is I get to actually show you how to do this in a platform, using a platform that really, it's never been possible to build something so amazing yourself. So today's not about me, saying, here's how I would do it. It's me showing you how you can do it yourself, building your brand, building something amazing to show for it. So I want to give a few little shout outs. First to Sydney, who's joining us here from Adobe. Let's give her a little round of applause. Sydney is my wonderful friend. Sydney works at Adobe, specifically Adobe Express, as a community manager. Sydney and I we're basically colleagues. We're friends, but we're also colleagues. We work together almost every single day, and we have the pleasure of doing events, virtual, in person, all over the place. And it was about a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago, Sydney said, Phil, we really want to get in front of some students that already have access to Adobe Express as part of their Creative Cloud subscription. And I said, wait, say no more. Call my friends at Full Sail. And here we are. I also want to give a shout out to Justin, and Julie wasn't able to make it today, but they are also global ambassadors for Adobe Express. They live here in Orlando, so give Justin a little bit of a little warm welcome to Full Sail. Justin, this is your first time on campus, right? No, you've been on campus. Okay, we're going to make this your best visit yet. Okay, crew, let's get going. So what we're going to do, I'm going to give you this link in the corner. This is to some notes, in case I don't have time to cover everything today. I'm going to share some ideas. I'm going to give you some almost like tutorials on how I think you can be using Adobe Express, which you all have already as part of your launch box here on campus. Anyone watching the stream or watching the replay, if you have an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, you already have the premium version of Adobe Express, which is my favorite tool, my favorite platform to build a standout brand yourself. These notes you can get, they'll go through some of the details, some of the resources, even maybe some of the more specifics than I'll have time to actually cover today. I'll leave that link in the bottom corner, and let's get going. I think the first thing we should do is define in 2022 what it means to have a personal brand. Experts define this term in all different ways. Tim Ferriss, popular in the entrepreneur world, says a brand is about managing your name in a world of misinformation, disinformation, and semi-permanent Google records. What does this mean? It means that, ideally, the process of building your brand is something you're doing proactively, not reactively. If I had $1 for every person, every client, every lead that has called me and said, Phil, I want to get this thing removed from Google, or I want to hide this negative press, or I want to, I get this all the time, and it's not that easy. I want to get negative reviews removed from Yelp. I can't do it. I can't do it. There are definitely tactics that I can use to adjust the focus of what people see online, but it's not as simple as just removing something you don't want from the internet. That's reactive. Proactive means that you, even as a student, yes, you might be a student here at Full Sail, but I think of you as a young professional, eligible to work, eligible to start working and building a brand and building your portfolio, building your proof of concept to convince someone that you're the right person for the gig or the job or the opportunity, right? And so proactively means, building your brand proactively means every day, it could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I want you to hear my voice in your head, giving you permission to spend just a few minutes building your brand. It could be cleaning up your LinkedIn profile. It could be creating content that you can post on platforms like Instagram or even YouTube or TikTok. Right? Every single day, it's a little bit like a marathon, not a sprint, right? If you can carve out time to spend on you to proactively build your brand, this is going to help you land those opportunities at or after or maybe even before graduation. And I have some stories for you that are coming up. Let's look at a different definition of branding. Gary Vee says, a brand is key to monetizing your passion online. This is the definition that resonates the most with me. As a Full Sail student in 2011, yes, it was a while ago, I still, months before graduation, had not the exact idea or path mapped out of what I was going to do for a living. By show of hands in the room, who is also an international student? So we have a few, yes. I love that about this campus, is we have people from all over the world. I also was an international student from Canada, still international. If you ask the government, no, trust me, if you ask the government, I'm just as international as you. And so we have the additional pressure to not only find a job to start paying back our loans, but find a job and for someone to sponsor you to stay in the country. Otherwise, you get sent home. And so I feel always, I always feel for international students because I was in that position to have this additional pressure to figure out what is it you're going to do, right? What is it you're going to do? Ideally, you're in the most amazing ecosystem to foster this, but ideally, this job, this opportunity, this, the beginning of this path really is the intersection of two things: something you're passionate about and something other people need and are willing to spend money on. When an employer, for example, hires you, it's an investment, like any other, investment in business. You're getting paid a salary, you're getting paid an amount of money to render a service, and ideally, the person making that investment, your employer, is going to see a return on that investment. And you could be working in HR, you could be working in production, you could be offering a service, you could be working as a strategist or a consultant. It's still the same. And so we really, you don't have to be studying business to have to think about this in a business way. But you're at the most exciting opportunity in your career right now, which is decision-making time, building your brand proactively, really marinating on this idea, what do I love? What do I absolutely love to do with my time, and how does that intersect with something people need? Right? I moved out to LA after going through my master's degree here in entertainment business. Specifically, it was the month on branding and storytelling that I really loved. That month felt like fun for me. I loved putting presentations together. I loved designing things and making things look pretty. I did not love spreadsheets. I did not love accounting, but it's come in handy. But so me reflecting on that, even while I was still a student at Full Sail, to think, what is it here that I'm drawn to? How can that lead me into a career that I really love to do? And now look at me, still giving presentations and designing presentations. And I want you thinking about the same thing. A brand is key to monetizing your passion online. Nowadays, even if you sell insurance, you still have a brand. If people are typing your name into Google, you have a brand. Potential employers are looking you up, right? Colleagues, all kinds of people are now going to the internet to find information on a person in real life. And so branding for me really is I bring these definitions together. I think a brand is your sandbox. This is your area to play. This is where we define what it means to be you. Who are you in real life? Content, what you say. Personality, the unique way that you and only you deliver that content. That's what keeps us coming back to you for more. Didn't talk about this years ago, but now a perfectly viable career is a content creator. 2 years ago, we're all at home. Pandemic hit. I wasn't traveling as much to speak at conferences around the world. I thought, well, here's something I could do with my time. Dust off my old YouTube channel and start posting videos. Since I like to talk, I don't really like to write, but I like to talk, and that's a way that I like to communicate. I enjoy it. I think it's also one of my strengths in terms of communication. So there you go. There's that intersection. I started to post YouTube videos. And so 2 years ago, this didn't even exist. Now, as I stand here today, I have brand partnerships, Adobe being my biggest one, but other really exciting ones, ConvertKit, Teachable, Synthesia, which is an AI app, and all kinds of cool companies around the world. This will now become, this year, just a six-figure income stream for me. And again, this did not exist 2 years ago, sponsored content or content creation. So I will take your dreams seriously, as we do on campus, as we do at Full Sail. If you say to me, I want to be a content creator, fantastic. An influencer is kind of the old way of calling it, but a content creator. As I stand in this room right now, what excites me is that all of you, or so many of you, what you do as a hobby on social media and how you use social media and how you use the internet to stay in touch with your friends and your family as a hobby, as something you do without even thinking twice about it, this is actually a skill set that companies need. And so actually last week, I was in the PAC meeting for entertainment business, and we were talking about this. I was talking about this with career development, how they're seeing so many job opportunities opening in what many of you would consider your dream companies, your dream employers, It might be entry level, it might be social media, it might be marketing assistant or a production assistant. But these are the types of jobs that are going to get you in the door. They're going to get you interacting with the people that are what we would call gatekeepers, the ones that decide the opportunities you'll get moving forward. And so that's really, really exciting for you. Right now, the job market, even if you don't want to go work for someone, you want to go start your own business, which is what I did. I've never worked for anyone. Right out of Full Sail, I started helping people make websites and logos, and that's all I've ever done. And right now is just a really exciting time for you. And so planting seeds as you build your brand, really thinking about you. What are those tools that you can be using right now to build that arsenal, that portfolio? How do we define what it means to be you, to be on brand? Let's go through some important questions. And I'm going to move fast. What is your business goal? Even as a student, this is a question I want you thinking about. What is your business goal? Building a brand doesn't really matter unless it's rooted in a specific goal that you want to achieve. If someone comes to me and says, Phil, I want to build a brand, I would say, why? What's the point? What is your goal? Well, I'm launching a book. Fantastic. Well, and I want it to be a bestseller. Okay, great. I want to create a new website. I want to take my business to the next level. I've done everything that I've built myself, and now I'm ready for some help. Fantastic. What is your business goal? Think about the answer to that. What makes you memorable? I've already given you some phrasing, some questions, some things that will help you self-reflect. But I want you thinking about this. What about you is memorable? What makes you memorable? The experience of you. Branding is really about achieving consistency between the in-person experience and the online version of ourselves. It's my goal that I can look you up on Instagram or go to your LinkedIn profile, read, get a sense of who you're all about, and then I meet you in real life, and I'm like, yes, that is exactly what I was expecting. It's a little bit like dating. Brand building is a little bit like dating, right? You open an app, you find someone you think you like, you consume their online profile, and then you meet them in real life, and that experience is not consistent. That is never a positive result. What makes you memorable? And what do people need? Something you love on its own is what I call a hobby. As soon as you pair something you love with something others need and are willing to spend money on, even employers, that is really, I think, the most effective positioning or the most effective formula for positioning your brand. What do people need? So let's talk about Express, which, by the way, all of you with Launchbox as Full Sail students have access to the premium version. This is what it looks like, Adobe Express. It is browser-based. It's also an app that you can have on your phone. At the end of this, for those of us that are in the room, those of you that have your computer and your phone, which I'm sure is all of you, we're actually going to start designing, but I'll give you a little overlay of how it looks and how it works. Adobe Express has thousands of templates to get you started with all kinds of things that you might need to design: logos, book covers, collages, mood boards, holiday, cards, album covers. As well, they have what's called quick actions, which are probably things that you use other Adobe Suite platforms and apps for: cropping photos, converting file types or photo types, creating QR codes there you saw a second ago. Now, Adobe Express, which, by the way, is innovating and improving almost every single day. We have new features and new things that we're excited about. This platform, I think, and maybe I'm biased, I think it's going to become your favorite new platform because it is not meant for graphic designers or creative professionals like many of the other Adobe apps, more advanced features. Adobe Express really is finally democratizing so many things that we can all do ourselves. So I'll finish right here where I have my brand set up. So I have colors, I have my fonts, I have my logos. As well, it takes it even a step further than a lot of other popular browser-based graphic design tools. You can actually change the look and feel of your projects, web and video surfaces. Super, super cool, very sophisticated. I always describe it as like Adobe quality interface and features. So I want you to continue self-reflecting here as we work on positioning our brand in a few minutes. I'll put all the questions actually on here, and then you can take a picture of it if you want. I'll go through the questions individually and explain quickly why they're important. Describe yourself in 3 words. Really thinking about this is going to help you because it's probably a question that will come up in some kind of form in a job interview, or even having to write a bio for LinkedIn or for social media, or let's say you're speaking at a conference or you're going to be speaking on a panel during International Students Week, I think tomorrow, right? It's important to be self-aware is really the lesson here. It's important to be self-aware as a personal brand. Content, what you say. Personality, the unique way that you and only you deliver that content. Name 3 things I wouldn't know just from looking at you. It's a fun question to answer. Online, we're trying to recreate that in-person experience. So the answer to this question is often something that I will put in my bio, or if I'm writing it for my clients, we'll put it on the About page of their website. What might I learn from you if we were sitting down having coffee? Let's say this was like a little coffee shop space, and we just came and we met. We wouldn't just talk about work or business or branding. I probably would ask you, how was your weekend, right? And I might learn some things about you. So be ready to kind of, think about how can I sprinkle in some personality into what I'm creating. Name a few brands that you look up to. Very important question, because the beauty of the internet is that everything is public-facing. We can see what our favorite brands, industry-related or not industry-related, we can see what our favorite brands are doing online. Personal brands, company brands, could be your favorite clothing, could be a car brand. We can see how often they're posting on social media, which social media platforms they're posting on. Are they writing long captions? Are they using emojis? Are they sending out email blasts? I know it's not sexy, but email marketing is still very much a powerful way that brands are staying on their audience's radar. And I can tell you, if a student ever came up to me and said, Phil, I specialize in email marketing, I would say, hey, great, here you go, here's a job, right? And so name a few brands that you look up to. Be aware of those brands so that you can keep an eye on them, not to copy anyone, but there's no rule against being strongly inspired by what others are doing well. Describe your ideal audience in detail. And I mean detail. I want quality. I don't want quantity. I want quality. When I moved out to LA after graduating Full Sail, I found my audience, or kind of my niche, to start specifically with TV hosts. And so some of the lessons and the things that I share is really rooted back in those days. And when I was working with a host on building their brands and building their profile on social media to ideally win a gig instead of someone else, often competing with celebrities for the same types of jobs, we would ask this question: describe your ideal audience in detail. I don't want, age range, gender, demographics. I don't want general. I want a specific name of someone. I want one person that might represent your ideal audience. I want their name. I want a description of what they enjoy doing in their spare time, what fulfills them, what are they passionate about. So when I go to write an email blast, for example, I talk to Val. Val is my barber from years ago, from in LA when I was living there. And Val was my barber, and she did a great job, but I knew that she wasn't necessarily passionate about cutting hair. She was passionate about art. But it never really took off for her, at least as a full-time job, because it's a tough gig. But every time I would create content, I would think, what could I teach Val today about building her brand, growing her brand, her career? What could I teach Val? Or how can I speak specifically to Val to inspire her? And she's not necessarily more important than anyone else, but she represented my ideal audience of someone that I wanted to speak to and wanted to inspire. And so I would actually write her name and write an email blast and go back and change it to merge tag. Have a specific person in mind, and it's going to make you a stronger communicator to your ideal audience. How can I sum up my brand in a sentence? This is something, if you can't do today, I really want you thinking about this over the next little while. How can you sum up your brand in one sentence? It's useful to be concise, to be efficient in the way that you communicate what makes you great. I'm sure a lot of instructors, career development, people will tell you that if the experience out in the workplace after graduation, you don't always have a ton of time to make that really strong first impression. Sometimes it's referred to as an elevator pitch, because quite literally, that's about as much time as you might have, right? You might literally have less than a minute to convince someone that you are the right person for the opportunity, for the gig, for the job. So start working now on how to summarize it in one sentence. One sentence. Finally, what do you love to do? What do you absolutely love to do, and how does that intersect with what people need? I really mean it when I say standing on this stage in front of this audience in this wonderful community that you know I love, it's so refreshing and it's so exciting because next week I'll jump in, to a new city, new stage, and I'll be in front of people that are really unhappy in their job. And that might be attending my session because they want some inspiration or direction on what they need to do next to find something that's fulfilling. But at Full Sail, you're already in the process of discovering what you absolutely love to do. You are literally at this moment in time where you're reflecting, you're thinking, I love this more than this. You are setting yourself up for success in this amazing ecosystem to have a job, a career that fulfills you, something you're passionate about, something that you would still do every single day as a hobby, even if it wasn't a job. What do you love to do, and how does that intersect with something people need and are willing to spend money on? So now let's shift gears and talk about your brand, which is more than a logo. Sometimes people think, okay, brand, logo, that's the same thing, right? It is definitely not the same thing, and I'll explain and elaborate on how it's different. I keep referencing over a decade now that I graduated from school. This was my logo when I was a student at Full Sail. Talk about humbling, huh? It's not very good. So that was my logo, and I marched proudly into career development and said, hey, I've got my logo. I put it on my resume. I'm ready to get my name out there, ready to find a job, ready to find an internship, ready to find something that's not only going to help me start to pay my loans back, but keep me in the country, the land of opportunity. And so as I actually stand here and look at this, I think, wow, we have come a long way. Not just me, we, in terms of the tools available to us to create something that's beautiful without being a graphic designer necessarily. So my logo has evolved many, many times over the years. In fact, I rebranded so many times, I actually got it tattooed on my wrist so that I'll stop rebranding. Now I really can't change it. A logo, or a brand rather, is more than a logo. So some advice from a brand strategist to you as you start to build your visual brand, which I hope, my measure of success today is that you're all fired up and ready to get going after this presentation to build something to show for yourself. A brand is more than a logo. You might think about what are the different ways that your logo is going to show up. Not just plopping the same design in every single place, but I'm showing you actually I have over 9 versions of my logo that I use differently. This is a little bit like creating my sandbox or my toolkit to be able to use it depending on where it goes. So this is obviously my main logo that appears on my website. My company is Phil Pallen Collective, and so that appears on invoices and contracts. This one is perfect for an email signature. This one is a logo in behind my desk when I'm doing Zoom calls or press or podcast interviews. And then this, there's different variations that I use, and this is essentially setting myself up to have something a little more visually interesting than just pasting the same thing in every single place. A brand is more than just a logo. So those of you that don't have a logo, don't worry. I'm showing you one of my favorite tools from Adobe Express, which is our free logo maker. You can actually Google this just to find it. Essentially, it goes through the process. Let me actually just go back here. This is super cool for you to see. So this is the logo maker. It starts by asking you questions. Tell us about your logo. So the name of your business, it could be your personal brand. Right? You could just put your name. If you have a slogan, you can put the slogan. Then the next question is going to be choose a style. So bold, elegant, modern, decorative. You'll choose a style that speaks to you. You get to just choose one, and then you'll click Next. Finally, it's going to ask you to choose an icon, and there are thousands of icons to choose from. Just have a little look and see what speaks to you. I put in here as an example, I put a noodle business, so it's showing me food icons. There we go. You can just type in a word, a keyword, and find something you like. Once you find one that you like, yeah, I love that one. You'll select that. Very minimalist. In just a few seconds, it's going to start designing logos for you. I do not recommend this, by the way, if you're studying graphic design at Full Sail. This is cheating. But if you're in many of the degree programs I heard at the beginning of this, guys, look how much better this is than what I designed in 2009, and it literally took 30 seconds. It's one of my favorite tools, and what it does is it actually mocks it up and shows you how it will look in print, in web, social media icons, and then you'll click the Customize More icon, and it's going to take you right into Adobe Express to then further customize it, change some colors, change some layout options, maybe size or scale. Super, super cool. And again, that is called the free logo maker from Adobe Express, and it is still in beta, but all of you can access this. Again, you have premium Adobe Express as part of your Creative Cloud subscription. Again, anyone watching the stream or watching the replay, if you're not even connected to our Full Sail world, but you do have Creative Cloud subscription, then you have the premium version. If you don't, then you can also try Adobe Express for free. Forgot to mention that at the beginning. It's actually free to try and to use the basic version, which has a ton of features. There are some limitations, for example, on stock photos, or there are certain quick actions and functionality that is reserved for premium, but it is awesome. So let's now talk about color and typeface, right? We've talked about positioning your brand. We've talked a little bit about your logo, at least creating one quickly. To get started. What you can create in 2 minutes is better than what took me more hours than I can count in 2009. It looked that hideous. Color and typeface. So rather than using myself for this example, I'm actually going to use a client example, a brand that I've designed recently. This is my friend and my client, Sass, over in the UK. Sass is a consultant, and so you'll see her brand come together bit by bit, or each step of the way. So for me, if you've ever attended any of my workshops or sessions or watched YouTube videos, you'll know that photography is typically how I start the brand building process because it inspires so many of the stages that come later. For example, and I'm a terrible photographer for the record, but that's why I hire skilled photographers in any of the countries where I have clients. So a beautiful photo like this, you'll see how that can inspire the look and the feel. And we move on to, the logo design. So in this case, a monogram, S and A inspired, very structured, right? She's a change management consultant. So we want it to be structured. We want people to be trusting of her brand and her abilities as a professional. Again, not just one logo. We have multiple what we would call logo lockups, which are versions of the logo that we can use and sprinkle around the internet and in person. And again, you're seeing all the elements come here together. We choose a wonderful color palette. We create the website. We have more photography. Photography that's not just headshots, but actually showing her being thoughtful. Not just showing her face, but also showing her hands, a close-up of a journal, right? We want to see you in action. We want to see you doing whatever it is you do. And so bit by bit, each of these elements come together. And I share just a client example. I've got many, 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 many of these on my website, over 60 client examples, visual examples of brands that I've built: photography, brand identity, website. So how can you do this in Express? Let me actually just go back here. So I showed you how to get your brand set up if you've already got a brand in Adobe Express. They've got this amazing area where you can actually set up your brand colors. I'm showing you sasses. If you don't have a brand yet, you could use the free logo maker to create something to get started. I love in here, there's lots of little hidden but magical features like this, suggested font pairing. So when you click on the fonts and you're not sure what you should choose, Adobe, using its incredible wealth of resources, obviously, and knowledge across all of its platforms, will actually make recommendations for you. So you don't even have to choose them yourself. You can let Adobe choose it for you. Maybe some of you have used this tool or heard of it before. This is called Adobe Color. Also, a quick Google and you'll land on the website. I think it's color.adobe.com. But this is super cool. You can choose a color scheme based on rules, or my favorite, you can actually upload a photo to Adobe Color and actually start to create a palette from a photo. Super, super cool. So much of brand building is about making decisions. And try not to be paralyzed in all the possibilities. There are quite literally millions of colors. How on earth are you supposed to decide? Make a decision. Use parameters like a photo, for example, to create some of those parameters or limitations that will help you make a decision, and rest in knowing that you can always update your colors later. You can always change them. So now let's talk about photography. We've touched on it a little bit. Photography and photo planning. If I've done my job as a brand strategist, you know how passionate I am about photography. If I've done my job well, then you should be able to look at all of these photos and get a sense of who the client is. I'm not going to tell you anything about them. If I've done my job, you should be able to look at a photo, get a sense of what they do or what they are, but also a flavor of their personality. And if that has been achieved, then I have done my job in really recreating the in-person experience online. No one actually has that many hair curlers. So what we did was we put them all on one side and then took a photo and put them all on the other side and photoshopped it later. And not every photo as part of a brand, at least that we design, is bright or humorous. If it fits the tone, if it fits the vibe, right? Self-aware, answering those questions and becoming aware of people's experience of you. Not every brand is bright and bubbly and funny. Sometimes it's thoughtful, quiet. Sometimes that can be some of the most powerful branding that we do. I usually start with photography because it can inspire the rest of the branding process, like choosing a color palette, as I showed you with Adobe Color a second ago. Let's say, for example, you guys have a rockin' profile photo that you've taken, or a photo of you that maybe a friend took that you really like. Use that. Use that. Maybe you decide some complementary colors based on that. Ideally, the photos capture you in action. It's more than just a boring white photo of you or a photo of you against a boring white background, right? We want to see you in your environment. We want to see you thinking or laughing or, in nature, in your environment, doing whatever it is you do. That's my challenge for you as you think about photography. Now that's brand photography, and nothing, including stock photos, will ever replace the power of brand photography. However, you may find that you need what we would call B-level photography or supplemental photography. Photos that you might want to use in a poster or a social media post or a blog post thumbnail. And within Adobe Express, probably the best thing about the platform, I love all the templates, I love that it's Adobe level design, but it's the integrations. with other amazing Adobe tools like Adobe Stock, you actually get access to millions of Adobe Stock photos right from Express without even having to leave it. And I've done, if any of you watched YouTube videos, I talk a lot about stock photos. I get asked a lot about what is the best place to go for stock photos. Not Unsplash, although it's popular, but unfortunately if you use Unsplash, you're gonna see the photos that you chose everywhere else on the internet because everyone uses it. I'm a huge fan of Adobe Stock. Typically, you have to pay to license the photos. I think it's worth it to pay to license them because they're better. But in Express, if you're using Express, you already have the premium version. You don't have to pay more for this. You have access to literally millions of amazing stock photos. One of the things I like that Adobe does is they hire small photographers. Here you're seeing me use a mix of photos of me that might work for a blog post, photos of clients, also icons. Sometimes I'll just use a brand color and pop an icon, which I can also get from Express, or I use a stock photo for a blog post thumbnail. I like that Adobe hires smaller photographers, diverse photographers, to make the stock photo library actually interesting. You all know those cheeseball stock photos, like real estate agent on the park bench. It's just horrible. And so I'm happy that we've arrived at a place where stock photos are actually interesting to look at. Recommendation, I typically try to avoid faces in stock photos if you're trying to pull it off as something with your ideas or your thoughts. Just a tip, as soon as you have a face of a stranger in a stock photo, it starts to look like a stock photo. So if it's like someone faced away, or if it's a vignette or like a, maybe a part of the body or someone doing something, that typically is better. So let's land on this fifth idea here as we build our brands, beautiful brands from scratch. This one is a bit more advanced, but I know you can handle it. And then we'll have a few minutes, actually, at the end for the people in the room, not the stream, but people in the room, we're actually going to have you start to design something. And we have prizes. So finally here, this idea of sub-branding. I told you earlier that a brand is more than a logo. To take that even a step further, we're not just branding you, the name of you. It could be your name, a personal brand, or it could be branding a company. We're not just branding you, we're also thinking about what makes you interesting in terms of how you do what you do. And I'll explain. This idea of sub-branding, how do we take inventory of what you do so people's experience of you is memorable? Let's say, for example, you're a nutritionist. Your sub-brands, which are the roots leading back to you, your sub-brands might be the different ways in which you work with your clients. And you can create a visual identity for this. So advocacy, consulting, education, communications, working as a spokesperson. See how each of the icons, so through iconography, we're able to create a little family, a little collection. The reason I get so excited about branding is because branding is business, right? I've never, in the years that I've been working, I've never discovered a methodology or a way to have so much control over creating something on your terms in your business. For example, when Rachel hired me, she was only working in 3 of these ways. She said, Phil, I really want to do more work as a spokesperson or work in communications. And I said, great. Let's actually spell out on your services page the 5 ways in which your clients can access you. And just by communicating this, creating a visual presence for this, a system for this to communicate it, it happened. She created it. She created more pathways in her business to be hired and grew her business. This is a client of mine, Simon, that I've worked with for years. I actually met him on this campus. Simon is a very well-known keynote speaker. When designing his brand identity, we created a unique icon set for each of his keynotes. So each of these icons represents one of his core areas of expertise. Right, so going to a conference, he can say, not just, hey, hire me to speak, it's these are the core areas, the core messages or topics that I can deliver to your audience. And that's really exciting because he could deliver one this year, and then next year he can pitch another topic, for example. A client of mine named Rick in Stockholm, Sweden, had multiple podcasts. He's a podcaster, but he had actually had multiple podcasts. That was how he grew his audience. But before hiring me, they were all different designs, all different fonts, my version of a nightmare. And Rick hadn't at that stage identified that really the common thread between his podcasts was him. The brand was him, the personal brand, Rick Lindbergh. His name is the brand. And his sub-brands, his access points, were his podcasts. So we redesigned them, kept it really simple, working in favor, right, following the design of his logo. So those are examples on sub-brands. How do we do this in Adobe Express? This is why I get excited about this, because quite literally everything that I'm teaching you today, all of these steps and stages of building a brand that I've been practicing now for over a decade, for the first time, I can actually stand on stage and say, you can do this yourself as a student. You can hop into Express and actually pull from the tab over on the left, which is called Shapes. And from there, all kinds of beautiful icons, literal, but also more abstract. So I could type in vegetable, and obviously I'm going to get lots of vegetables. I could then go ahead and change that to vegetarian. What is an icon for vegetarian? Well, it's a little bit more ambiguous, but it's so intelligent, it's going to give you lots of really awesome results. Your goal is going to be decide on a style, right? And try to keep your icon set as consistent as possible. So if you go with something that's more filled in, keep that style and make sure that you're not jumping between styles, because then it won't look consistent. But all of you can start to think about, right, your brands. What are those access points? What is unique about the way you do what you do? And how can we create a visual system for that? So I'm putting a link here to the notes. You can take a picture of this. You can download them later. You can download them now. You can do whatever you want. And I also, at this link, philpallen.co/build, I have a link to my most popular Adobe Express template, most downloaded of all my templates, which is social media. Essentially, it's called Easy Content Templates, and it's meant to give you a tangible template to start posting on platforms like Instagram or LinkedIn. You can use them on a variety of platforms, even Facebook, but it's meant to get you creating. The branding, the steps are in this stage. Position your brand, build something to show for it. We focused on that today. Obviously, that final stage is promote. Sticker for sale sign out front of that house that we've worked hard to build. Social media is definitely still one of the easiest ways in terms of access, in terms of learning what you need to learn to establish consistency between the in-person experience and the online version of ourselves. So I talk a lot about social media, not as much today. We're talking today more about the steps to build it. I want all of you, it's my dream that every single person in this room, and even those of you watching online, you feel inspired, you feel like you have the tools, the framework to build something to show for your passion. Giving some thought to, where does my passion intersect with something people need? And the reason we're excited to do this today is because, again, for the first time, I can stand on this stage and say, finally, we have a tool that enables you in a very sophisticated way to build your own brand yourself, and that is Adobe Express. I'm going to put up this QR code. Hopefully you can see this on the stream as well. All of you can see it in the room. I see phones going up. That's exactly what you should be doing. Go ahead and use this QR code to hop over to Express on your mobile device or on your computer, whatever you've got. We will probably send off the stream online shortly now. We'll send our audience. Let's give them a round of applause, those of you watching or catching the replay. Thank you for hanging out with us. And then we will, those of us in the room together, we are going to do a little exercise, and there's going to be prizes. We have exactly 7 or 8 minutes. I think it's 7 minutes. Sydney and I are going to give you, and Justin, you're part of this too. We're going to give you 7 minutes to design something. We're giving you a few ideas here.